seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
What? If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor.
What difference at this point does it make?
If you're looking to make sense out of what's going on in the world today, then you've come to the right place. Welcome to Southern Sense Talk Radio with your host, Annie, the Radio Chick Ubellis, and featuring Curtis C.S. Bennett and the most interesting guests that you'll find anywhere on Internet radio. And you can join the show and let your voice be heard by dialing 917-889-3675. So sit back, relax, and remember, Southern Sense is common sense.
Here's the reality. Emergencies usually strike without warning. We're surprised when the stock market crashes or power goes out. Certainly, with earthquakes, there's no warning. These things happen. And when it's breaking news, it's too late to prepare. Now you're scrambling and panicked. Best thing to do is prepare for natural disasters or emergency situations while things are still calm. So ask yourself right now, could you feed yourself or your family for 2 weeks with the food you have at home at this moment? If not, it's time to act and secure an emergency food supply. I use My Patriot Supply, and you should too. A 2-week food kit will get you started. This week, it's on sale for only $75 when you go to my special website, preparewithsouthernsense.com, or call 888-441-7290. These food kits include meals that last up to 25 years in storage. So order now and prepare yourself so there are no surprises. Just call 888-441-7290 or go to preparewithsouthernsense.com. Forget about it. If you can't remember the phone number 888-441-7290 and you can't remember preparewithsouthernsense.com, you know the name of the show. It's Southern Sense. Put a dash in the middle. southern-sense.com and click. All right, welcome back to another exciting adventure here on Blog Talk Radio. You're listening to Southern Sense, also on SHR Media. Oh, good Lord, do you know what I'm going to say? Just go to the name of the show to find out where the heck I am, because I have no idea where I am anymore. It's the name of the show is Southern Sense. Put a dash in the middle, southern-sense.com. I'm your hostess with the mostest, the nut job, the radio chick, along with my so patient, intellectual, and handsome co-host, Curtis C.S. Bennett. Good afternoon, Curtis. How are you today? And welcome back.
Hey, I'm feeling great. I could not have planned this trip to Philadelphia any better because I got out of the state just before Dorian got there. So I'm happy about that. And I'm happy, that it didn't hit, Florida and do any serious damage.
Absolutely. And you left your poor wife behind in Florida. You left her to sit out the storm. Good going. What a sweet husband.
Hey.
Carolyn, I hope you're listening. She's probably laughing her butt off anyway. Well, we had Dorian pass through here over the last couple of days, and we didn't have any serious damage. We had some trees that came down, not on our property, but there were some trees that were blocking our street, and debris here and there. Nothing fantastic. We lost power for just a couple of hours. I think we burned maybe 1/10 of a gallon of gasoline or propane in the generator. We had 2 generators. One's gasoline, one's propane. So we were stocked. I mean, I've got my Patriot food
You were
stocked.
ready.
Yeah, I have my boxes of Patriot food. So please, I really do use this stuff. I do buy it. I do use it. I had the freezers are all plugged in, and I had food galore, so not even worrying about that. So, well, we were set. We were all really, really set. I'm looking at the chat room. I'm cracking up. I want to thank everyone that's listening in the chat room in our studio, as well as over on SHR Media and everywhere else that we are being broadcast. They're questioning who's running against Trump in the primary, and it's a joke. It really is a joke. I hate to say it because one of them happens to be a friend of mine, Mark Sanford. And I think it's a very, very poor political decision he's making in trying to run against him in the primary. I can't see, honestly, any Republican being able to beat him going into the primary. And as for Joe Walsh, he has been a past guest on the show. When he was in Congress, we had him on the show. So there is some question about his mental stability if he was a guest on this show, Curtis. Anyway, there are some funny questions going on in the chat room, so I want to thank everyone that's participating in there. Anyway, we've got ourselves a packed show. I don't know if our final guest, Kathy Landing, will be with us because we were under a mandatory evacuation here. Even though we stayed, because we've got 5 cats, we didn't leave. But there was mandatory evacuation, and I would assume that she was one of those, because the storm hit closer to her up in the Charleston, Myrtle Beach area than it did to us. And that evacuation probably just lifted today. Because they were getting hit last night in the Myrtle Beach area. They had some tornadoes that touched down in that area too, especially North Myrtle Beach. And I think that's where her home base is, in the Myrtle Beach area. So I don't know, honestly, if she will be on with us. But we'll make do. We've got Raynard Jackson starting the show off, and then we have Richard Lynch. He's got a brand new album that just came out. He'll be joining us. Some really great songs on that one. So a lot to talk about, Curtis, and a lot to do. And people are talking about Joe. Are they talking about Joe Biden in the chat room or Joe Walsh in the chat room? I'm not sure.
Joe Biden, he had a bloody eye. It was gross looking. They showed it on Drudge Report.
Oh, man.
Looked like somebody socked him in the eye. Like a blood vessel burst in his eyeball.
Well, maybe he ran into the same accident we had with Harry Reid. Remember Harry Reid's face when it was all bloodied? Maybe he had the same workout.
Well, was her name AOC?
No. If you remember, before Harry Reid retired from the Senate, he claimed that exercise equipment fell on him. Maybe his bookie came after him for the payout. Don't know. So there was different stories about whether or not Harry Reid had his brother-in-law punch him. But Joe Biden, maybe he had the same exercise accident. Who knows?
I think AOC did it.
Jeez.
I'm running the party now, Joe.
Anyway, we've got a lot to talk about. And towards the end of the show, we're going to dedicate some time to our dear friend Kel Fritzy, who passed away last month. We're going to hold that off till the end of the show when we talk about her. For those that have been following the show for about 2.5 years, maybe longer, she was my co-host. She co-hosted when I also had she paired up with Cool Mike at one point, co-hosting with me, and then when Dan Butcher was co-hosting, she also paired up. It was a great trio that we had, and I've known her, for 8 going on 9 years, and we will miss her deeply. Like I said, I want to hold that off to the end of the show because I'll get a little too emotional. For those that do watch on the video, they see I always wear a crucifix that does not come off, even when I go in the shower, unless I am having an X-ray or an MRI or a CAT scan done. It's the only time it comes off. It's a crucifix Cal sent me as a gift. It's the sword of St. James, who helped drive the Moors out of the Iberian Peninsula. Again, I'm going to get into that at the end of the show. Vito Esposito on Global Patriot Radio will have a memorial show with the friends of hers on Tuesday evening. And Vito, feel free to post it in the chat room. Also put it up on our show page, an SHR Media show page, so we can also get it up there too. Anyway, talking about remembering people, those that listen to the show know that we start off each and every show with a dedication to a fallen hero. And today's dedication is going to go out to Trooper Brooke James Story of the Illinois State Police. Her end of watch was Tuesday, March 28th of this year. And these sources are coming from ABC 7 Chicago. Bear with me as I try to pull these information out. The Telegraph, Herald, and from WREX.com. And the dedication reads, Trooper Brooke Jones Story, 34, was killed Thursday, March 28th, inspecting a semi-truck on U.S. Route 20 westbound, just west of Illinois Route 75 in Stephenson County, police said. Jones Story was outside of her squad car when she was struck and fatally wounded when another semi-truck struck her squad car and the semi she was inspecting. Both trucks caught fire. Jones Story's death comes days after Governor J.B. Pritzker announced renewed efforts to enforce Scots law in response to the number of accidents injuring state troopers. The law requires drivers to slow down and move over for emergency vehicles. The law, enacted in 2002, was named after Lieutenant Scott Gillen, a Chicago firefighter who was struck and killed by an intoxicated driver while assisting at a crash on the Dan Ryan Expressway. No driver needs to get to their destination so quickly that needs to put a trooper's life at risk, Pritzker said during a press conference about the law. Jones' Story death also falls on the 6th anniversary of the death of another officer, Trooper James Sauter, who was killed on the tri-state near Northbrook in 2013 when a truck driver fell asleep at the wheel. The driver was sentenced to 2 years in prison. This crash adds to an alarming trend, with at least 15 state troopers being hit along the Illinois roads so far in 2019, a number that's nearly double the total of 8 troopers struck in all of 2018. Today is a dark day for the Illinois State Police family, said Brandon Kelly, acting director of the Illinois State Police. How many times does this have to happen? How many more have to be hurt or killed? When's enough enough? The driver of the vehicle that struck James' Story had been cited with violation of Scots law and improper lane usage, police said. The men and women of this department, especially the troopers and colleagues of Trooper Jones' Story, are sad, hurting, and they're angry, Kelly said. At the crash scene, which is about 2 hours west of Chicago, state troopers gave Jones' Story, a 12-year veteran of the ISP, one final salute. Brooke Jones' Story's ashes were carried out to the parking lot of Warren High School in a small black urn under a pale gray sky. The lot was lined with uniformed Illinois state troopers standing at attention. Across the street, Area residents watched from the sidewalk as officers mourned the loss of one of their own. Joan Story was killed on Thursday, March 28th, when she was struck by a vehicle during a traffic stop. The Stockton resident had spent 12 years as an Illinois state trooper, and on Wednesday, April 3rd, she was put to rest. There is no other grief like that around a life undeniably taken too soon, said the Illinois governor, who was one of several who eulogized Joan's story. And in standing here today, quote, I feel that we are not just eulogizing the years that Trooper Joan Story lived, but also mourning the years that were stolen from her. Warren was practically shut down. Most streets were empty, save for some American flags lining the sidewalks. Much of the town was gathered at the high school, Joan Story's alma mater. During her high school years, she was viewed as outgoing and friendly. She had a smile on her face most days, said Gary Hunt, a teacher at Warren High School, who had Story in his math class for 3 years. She was well liked by just about everyone. Jason Cruz, a manager at the McDonald's in Stockton. Almost every day, Story would stop by the restaurant to order iced coffee before she set off for the day. She was an amazing person, always concerned with everyone around her, Cruz said. She is going to be missed. Stockton resident Bill Herman, who stood with the Patriot Guard riders at Joan Story's funeral, saw her head to work most days, including the day she was killed. Seeing her on that last day has stuck with me, Herman said. It's weird, the things that haunt you. Warren Mayor Wayne Raisbeck said the community is reeling. It's been really hard on a lot of people, Raisbeck said. A lot of people are still in shock. It was a simple message from one of the many classic Disney movies Brooke's Story loved so dearly. But Pritzker repeated it often during his eulogy. The simple edict: have courage and be kind. It was a way of life for Joan Story, and the governor said that message presents an example to which we all should aspire. The arc of Brooke's life should bend all of us towards compassion, towards courage, and towards kindness, he said. Pritzker recalled Joan's Story love for Disney movies and animals, noting that it takes a particularly kind soul to rescue pets that others have discarded. The author cited her commitment to CrossFit, a popular physical fitness routine, as a sign of her relentless dedication and courage. A pursuit that requires that true courage of mind and intention, he said. CrossFit demands that you challenge yourself physically in ways that require real mental strength. That surprisingly intimate struggle builds family in the CrossFit world, something that Brooke valued greatly. Several others shared memories of her, including Brendan F. Kelly, acting director of the Illinois State Police. He compared the fallen trooper to a superhero. Tough moments bring out the best in tough people, Kelly said. That's why there has been such an outpouring of support from so many. The officiant, the Reverend Dan Herman of the Old Stone Church in Rockton, read from Psalms 23 and the Book of Ecclesiastes. He led the congregation in a moment of silence for her and her colleagues who fell in the line of duty this year. He also commended her colleagues, those who bring order and safety to the communities they serve. He shared a story of her inspiration for joining the law enforcement. As a college student, she received a ticket from a university police officer. But Joan's Story didn't get angry. Instead, she made friends with the officer and discovered a passion that would guide her career. Think of that, Herman said. For those of you that are serving, think of that. You may give a lot of tickets. You may do stuff people don't like, but you are an inspiration. And Brooke found that inspiration in someone just like you, doing that job. And finally, from WREX, Mary Sugden. It's been 5 months since Illinois State Police Trooper Brooke Joan Story was killed in the line of duty. She was working on the side of the road when a Scots law violator struck and killed her. In Stockton, her husband Robert is keeping her memory and legacy alive in a unique way. The retired Illinois State Police Master Sergeant runs a satellite rescue for the Peaceful Valley Donkey Rescue. I think it takes someone special to want to do this, says Robert, to want to take on an animal that's so unfamiliar. Robert and Brooke opened the rescue before her death. He says Brooke had a deep, unwavering love for animals and would do anything to help them. When asked why donkeys, Robert doesn't skip a beat. Brooke, that's the easiest answer, he said with a laugh. The thing Brooke would say is that they couldn't help themselves even though they were sweet animals. She wanted to help them. So that's why donkeys. Robert and Brooke signed on to foster a group of 16 donkeys before her death, a delivery that was put on hold until he got his feet back on the ground. This would have been the group that Brooke would have just insanely loved, Robert said. There's really not a shy one in the group. This July, Robert decided it was time. He was ready to open up his farm and his heart to the herd of donkeys. At his farm, Robert fosters the donkey until their forever home comes along. But moments spent with his guests makes it seem like Brooke is visiting too. Today's show is dedicated to Trooper Brooke Jones' story. It is also dedicated to all the brave men and women out there that serve as first responders, be they law enforcement, firefighters, or emergency services. It is also dedicated to all the brave men and women that serve in our military, from the birth of this brave nation through today and into its marvelous future. We dedicate the song by Todd Allen Herndon, My Name is America. May God bless each and every one.
Born in the grip of oppression, I fought for my liberty. I paid with the blood of my people. Freedom has never been free. Now my door's always open to dreamers and friends. When I'm attacked, I protect and defend. Because my name is America. I stand proud and free. My name is America. Don't tread on me. I cannot be broken. I cannot be shamed. If you hurt me, I'll get stronger. And I'll rise up from the flames. And I'll always stand proud and free. I'm America, don't tread on me. America is my name. My strength was not taken from others. Others gave it to me. They believe in the virtues I stand for. My respect for humanity. Now I'm challenged by tyrants who envy my power, but their vicious deeds become my finest hour. Because my name is America. I stand proud and free. My name is America. Don't tread on me.
Todd Allen Herndon, and you can find him at toddallenshow.com. Check it out. You're here listening to Southern Sense here on Blog Talk Radio, SHR Media, Lone Star Daily News, iTunes, YouTube, stuff. The heck with it. Just go to the name of the show. Put a dash in the middle, southern-sense.com. I'm your hostess with the mostest, the radio chick, Annie, along with my co-host, Curtis C.S. Bennett. Oh, man. Curtis, we're waiting for our first guest to call in. Want to welcome everyone that is up in the chat room. Also, I did a little special dance for Kel because whenever she listened to Todd Allen, she would be dancing in the chat room. So in memory of Kel, I did a little dance in the chat room. Man, we do have a lot to talk about, Curtis. And just why does everything always happen on a Friday?
I don't know, but I know right here in Philadelphia, they got this big thing going on about having a safe injection center for people who inject illegal drugs. And it's a big deal, it's in the courts right now. In other words, even the mayor of the city is sanctioning the use of illegal drugs, but, under the watchful eye of the city. And some people say that it's just going to encourage more, illegal drug use. And others say, well, it's a health issue. We allow these folks to have a safe injection place to do their drugs, then, it's not out in the street.
It's one of
the way I look at it, that they are enabling these people.
Oh, yes, absolutely. It is one of the dumbest things that these Democratic, liberal strongholds, progressive, whatever you want to call them, these strongholds, these sanctuary cities, if it's not for illegal aliens, it's for illegal drug use. Our veterans get less respect than we do to a criminal. And it is one of the craziest and dumbest things I've ever heard. All you're going to do, as you said, enable. If you want to help these people that have these problems with addiction, be it opioid, be it methamphetamines, be it crack cocaine, whatever their addiction is, open up rehab centers, not centers where they can continue to feed their habit. You're not making a safe environment. Matter of fact, you're making it worse because you're saying it's perfectly okay for you to break the law. It's perfectly okay for you demanding to have the taxpayer to pay for your addiction. It is one of the it is dumb. It is absolutely asinine. It's the same thing they have with the Narcan. Yes, Narcan will save lives if someone is going into an overdose. Yes, but you're also telling that person that has that addiction, don't worry about it. You don't have to go and seek help and, whatever. You start to go into an overdose and you're probably close to dying. We have the stuff to bring you back. So go ahead and continue with your habit. Don't seek rehab. Don't seek help. Because if you're going to die, we got the thing to bring you back. So it's perfectly okay. Go ahead. Just keep on doing what you're doing. And let the taxpayer pay for what you are doing.
Well, the thing is, this is right up the alley of those on the left who are adept and comfortable breaking the law. They see no downside to this. To them, there's no such thing as illegal. It's just to show that we care,
No, but we'll turn around and we'll take guns away from legal citizens. No. We will give you the drugs you need for your addiction, but we will take away the protection of the legal, patriotic citizen who wants to exercise their Second Amendment right. And by the way, if you want to exercise your First Amendment right of free speech or religion, we will shame you. We will post your name publicly if you go to a Donald Trump fundraiser. If you show up at one of his rallies, we will put your name out there in the public and let everyone know so you lose your job, you lose your friends, you lose your community because you support Donald Trump. How dare you?
Well, I think recently someone stabbed at least 10 people, killing 2 of them. But where's the outcry? Let's ban knives.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We've got our guest in on the line. Let's bring him aboard. Let's welcome back to the show. It's always fun to have him on the show. Raynard Jackson. Ray, how are you doing today?
Annie, how you doing? I'm doing good. Thank you for having me. I'm just amazed that you even have a peon like me on your show.
Hey, how's it going, Mr. Jackson?
You are far from
good. Let me tell you, when I first got introduced to Annie, everyone told me that the highest place on earth is at her feet, and they were not wrong.
I've turned from being one of them white girls into a bright red-faced girl. Thanks. Hey, Pocahontas, I'm redder than you.
I just hope one day over the next 50 or 60 years, you'll deem me worthy enough to touch the hem of your garment.
If I never heard lines of BS, where's the shovel? Because right now I need it to dig myself out.
He's pouring it on, Annie. He's pouring it on.
That's funny.
Oh, man, now I don't even know where to start with you. My co...
Well, you're not the first woman to tell me that.
My co-host Curtis is up in visiting his family up in Philadelphia, and he was telling me that Philadelphia is the newest city to open up these public drug centers where they will provide you with the needles and whatever else you need to continue with your illegal drug habit. And I was going on a rant on that one. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, are these people really that brain dead that they thought they're going to actually help these people and get rid of the crime in Philadelphia by encouraging them to maintain their addiction?
Yeah, but Eddie, why are you surprised in the sense that these are the same liberals who tell 8th and 9th graders, heck, okay, when you walk through the doors at school every morning, here's a condom, and in case you decide to get busy, well, we want you to be best equipped to get busy. So how can you tell a kid to abstain from sex? How can you tell a kid to stay off of drugs? But then, hey, here's a needle, though.
It's unbelievable.
I'm confused.
Yeah, I am too. But what's funny is they're seeing in conservative areas, in red state areas, they are seeing local law enforcement and other first responders pulling back on carrying Narcan. They're starting to make it not as available to the public as it used to be, because they found that it only encourages opioid use. Wherever they had plentiful Narcan, they had an increase of opioid use. So if you look at those statistics and facts, why would you open up a drug center to encourage other drug addiction? It just makes no sense.
Well, but again, Annie, you are trying to bring logic into this conversation, and there is no logic to liberalism. Let me put it to you this way. The burglary rate in Saudi Arabia is almost zero. The theft rate in Saudi Arabia is almost zero. The crime rate in Saudi Arabia is almost zero. Why? Because if you commit certain acts, there's a sure, swift punishment that the general public knows. If I do A, B, and C, the government's going to do this. So in America, we break the laws, we do things, and there is no consequence for our actions. And so, for example, if you all keep up with football, you got Antonio Brown, was with the Pittsburgh Steelers, now with the Oakland Raiders. He threatened the general manager of the team Wednesday. They told him to go away, and they were considering suspending him. Now it just come out that they're going to allow him to play. Now show me what other boss can you threaten physically, and the team had to break him up because he's about to hit the general manager, and you reward him by allowing him to play. We in America, Annie, we have created a society where every act that you create, every violation of a law or a value or a standard that you cross the line on, there is no repercussion. So guess what? You're going to get more of that behavior.
Yeah, it is amazing, But if you are a conservative, and you do something, if you're a Republican and you do something, oh my goodness, it's off to jail. Do not pass go. Do not pay $200. Go straight to jail.
Right. Yeah. So you're in Walmart, Annie, and your kid gets out of line, and you spank his butt with your hand. All of a sudden, you're torn off to jail. Now, this same kid, if he walks up to a total stranger and kicks a person in the kneecap, it's racism. Oh, it's Donald Trump. So we will not prosecute this teenage kid for kicking an adult in the kneecap. I mean, we got to stop this lunacy, Annie. We really do.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Walmart. The latest company to buckle in to the left has been Walmart. They no longer will sell handgun ammunition. I go to the local Walmart, and every time I pass by the gun counter, there's no one there. And my husband and I stood there, for about half an hour. That's a little exaggeration, but for quite a long time, because I was looking for a rifle to purchase. And did you know that Walmart will not sell you a firearm unless they have a specific employee? They will not sell you ammunition or anything. They have but one person trained and licensed to handle that counter. And if that person has their day off or is on vacation, there's no backup person. So now they're going a step further and saying, we're not even going to sell you the ammo anymore.
Yeah, but Annie, how many bank robbers, how many thieves have ever gone to Walmart to buy ammunition and firearms?
Oh, my local burglar does.
They steal guns. Okay, you got an ethical burglar then. See, most of the burglars I know are unethical. Okay.
I've never taken a legal gun off the street. The only guns that I have confiscated were illegally possessed and illegally used. I've never taken off any legal weapon off of an individual. It's always been an illegal weapon. And
right, yeah.
If they're going to break the law, they're not going to follow the law to purchase it.
Well, did you hear what happened to the young lady in Houston the other day?
No. What's the punchline?
Okay, you have a black female. No, this is it. This actually happened. A black female, she's about 26, 27 years old. She was driving home to her apartment in Houston, and she was pulled up to her apartment at 2:30 in the morning. 5 guys approaches her. They reach into her car window. She pulled out her licensed gun, shot at them. She hit one of them who ended up in the hospital, and the police are arresting them and going to find the other 4. But guess what would have happened if this 26-year-old black woman in Houston did not have a legally purchased gun to defend herself?
Yeah, I did. And she's a pretty little thing,
we would be talking about her funeral.
Yes. She's a pretty little thing. I saw that last night. I didn't realize that was down in Houston. I just caught part of it on the news. And, yeah, she exercised her Second Amendment right. Hey, left, are you listening? She did not have that gun there for hunting. She had it for self-defense, as our founding fathers intended it to be. Oh, my goodness.
And you know what, Annie? What's amazing is I have not seen her story on CNN or MSNBC not one time.
Oh, you're not. You're not.
And you won't.
No.
Exactly.
There was also
this
a shooting.
First I'm hearing about it.
There was also a shooting up in an Alabama high school at a football game, and you hear zero about that. Why? Now, I'm not being racist, but it seems that the shooter was a black guy, and it was not a Donald Trump supporter. So, where's that story? That's missing.
Right. Yep. So I've never seen a gun kill anyone, Annie and Curtis. I've seen people pull the trigger on a gun. So by liberals thinking, Annie, why do we not ban all cars? Because there are 50,000 people killed by car accident every year, a lot more than people who are killed by guns. There is no push to ban automobiles. Why?
A number of years ago, I spoke on this. Maybe it was one of the first times you were on the show. I can't believe I've been doing this almost 9 years now. There was a statistic about 6 or 7 years ago that more hammers hammers kill more people than guns do. So I asked the question, why aren't hammers being banned?
Well, because, I mean, most people don't listen to rap music. They have no idea who Hammer is.
Oh, that's bad. That's as bad as his pants were. Remember those pants?
Oh, I can't, Andy, you can't touch this, okay? So, no, my column that came out last week, Andy, I talked about this this whole notion. I guess the title of the column was "Liberals Gunning for Our Freedoms," and I talked about this whole gun issue. Isn't it amazing? In Japan, it's illegal for citizens to own guns. So you know what happens in Japan? The weapon of choice for mass destruction in Japan is a regular knife. And most recently, in May of this year, you had in Japan a man went on a rampage and stabbed and killed 13 people. They use knives, but there's no push in Japan to ban knives.
Nope. And I have that article.
So if you take away our guns, and
well, I have that article directly in front of me, and one of the things I underlined in that one, I love this. You wrote, as I constantly say, one of the central tenets of liberalism is intent, not results.
Yep. Yeah, well, we didn't mean to violate the federal election campaign law, so therefore we should not be prosecuted because that was not our intent. We didn't mean to destroy the black family with our welfare programs in the 60s where it mandated the removal of the black male from the home, so therefore there was no racist intent. These liberals know exactly what they're doing. They know the consequence of removing the black male from the home. They know the consequence of telling little Johnny that Johnny got two daddies and Susie got two mommies. They've redefined the family unit. And as I put in my column, Andy and Curtis, until you reconstruct the nuclear family with a mother, a father, and kids, you can pass all the gun control you want. You can pass all the other laws until you bring the family unit in place, especially, Curtis, I think you would appreciate this, as a black male, we provide stability, discipline, and guidance to males before they get filled with testosterone. Once they get hit with all that testosterone, if they didn't have a male guiding them, you see the results you have there in Curtis and Philadelphia where you are. A total anarchy going on within the young black male community. It has nothing to do with racism. There is no male presence there, and that is the problem.
Yeah.
Terrible here. Very terrible.
Yeah.
Because, for example, Curtis, right down the road from you in Baltimore 2 weeks ago, now, Baltimore, black bear, black police chief, black city council, black councilman, black district attorney, the deputy police chief and his wife were out 2 Saturdays ago for a night out on the town, got robbed at gunpoint. The deputy police chief. Go figure that out, okay? I mean, this is ridiculous, Curtis and Andy. It's ridiculous.
Where was his sidearm? Did he not carry a sidearm?
That's why I want to know, where was his security detail?
He must be a Democrat.
Of course, in Baltimore. So, yeah, of course.
Doesn't carry a weapon.
Exactly.
He wouldn't if the state forced him to.
Yep. So it's amazing how everything is blamed in the black community at the feet of racism and the legacy of slavery. And again, no one is telling these young girls to get pregnant at 14, 15 years old and then distance the male from the kid's life. And now, am I putting all the onus on the female? Yes. And you know why, Annie? Before all your listeners start calling in saying I'm such a sexist, I'm sexy, but I'm not a sexist. The reason I put more onus on the female is, as Curtis would agree, all we males do, Annie, we have to just plant the seed. We can keep moving. But you women, you all have to deal with the consequences as far as the pregnancy and the birth and things like that. We are so far removed from that just biologically. So I think the woman needs to be a lot more aware of the consequences because they have more at stake than the male does.
Well, one of the things I had in my note was touching on this subject because the destruction of the black family. And it's like, they need to be helped. So that you open up Planned Parenthood centers around the area. You make it so that you can receive welfare and food stamps and Section 8 housing. But it's got to be a single mother family. You can't have the father in the picture. So government is encouraging and causing the breakup of families in order for you to get the welfare funds that you feel you deserve because you were reckless in your behavior. It started with LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson in the 60s by passing those laws. And then because everyone else across America saw that, hey, this behavior is perfectly acceptable in society today. It used to be you had a girl that was pregnant. She would be shamed. She would be placed in a home until the baby is born, and the baby would be either adopted or brought back into the family as if it was a younger brother or sister. There was always an excuse. But you would be shamed. Today, we don't do that anymore. It's perfectly acceptable. So if it's perfectly acceptable in the black community, it's then perfectly acceptable across all of America. And you see a growing number of poor white. We used to have a solid middle class. That middle class is broken down to a point where, hey, any behavior is acceptable. Whatever feels good goes. I'm sorry, that's one of my rants today.
Well, it's very true, Annie. And the thing that is so crazy is these white elitist liberals in the 60s that you made reference to. Here's how idiotic their thinking was. They said, hey, let's poison the black community by dismissing the male figure. And they didn't think that the black community is the canary in the mine. What goes on in the black community today, 5 or 10 years in the future, is what's going to happen to the white community. In the black community, north of 70% of all childbirths are out of wedlock. In the white community, I think it's 66%. So don't think you're laying a trap for the black community, because a few years after that, it's going to happen to the white community. And America has a problem. And you see this feminist push, Annie and Curtis, of women basically saying, I don't need a man. Just give me his damn sperm. I don't even need to have sex with him. I can just go to a sperm bank and get that and inject it myself. I don't want a man touching me, because to have sex with a man is the continuation of male dominance over female. Just give me the sperm. I can get pregnant on my own. That's idiotic. Totally idiotic. And if you look at all the sitcoms on TV, Annie, all the popular ones on mainstream TV, they marginalize the male, black or white. And basically the women are saying, we don't need the male. We just need the freedom to do what the heck we want. We want the sperm from the male, but we want nothing else to do with them.
You pointed another topic I had in my notes to address with you is the pervasiveness now of Hollywood. And they're pushing the progressive agenda. Back in the 80s, we were complaining about Murphy Brown. Do not propagate this behavior. Is okay. But no. It's just a TV show. It's not encouraging any behavior. And then you see all the other shows that followed suit. And now you've got gay parents, and you've got all the other behaviors that normally would be hidden in society and would be shamed, but it's perfectly okay. And oh, by the way, the adults are the dumb ones in the room. The 4, 5, and 6-year-old kids are the geniuses.
Yep. I'll tell you what I did earlier today, and the Curtis that I got a kick out of. I had to go to my pharmacist to pick up some medication, and of course they asked you, what your name is. I said, no, they asked me for my date of birth. I gave them that, and my name and stuff popped up on the computer. And they said, can you give me your name? I said, Barack Obama. They said, well, that's not what's showing up on our computer. I said, no, I'm Raynard Jackson, but I self-identify as Obama. And I said, and legally, you must recognize me and call me Mr. President. And she looked at me real funny, like she was stunned. And I said, I'm joking with you, but that's the same view when a guy that's born with a penis tells me he wants to be listed as a girl. I said, that's how much sense this makes to me. And she started laughing. And she said, okay, I get it now. But I said, no, but I do want you to address me as Mr. President because I self-identify. Now, doesn't Annie have to be based on reality? But if I verbalize it and tell you, Annie, I want you to call me President Obama, I want you to, or I will file a lawsuit against you.
Yeah, it has gotten so crazy. It really has. And we had a former transgender on the show. He's written a great book, Walt Heyer, and he does counsel people that now go through it. It used to be if you were to go and say, all right, fine, I'm a boy in a girl's body and I want to have a sex change, medically you had to go through psychotherapy first to determine whether or not you've got an actual mental problem or if this is a truly biological problem. And less than 1% of 1/10 of our society, not even 100th, more close like 1,000th of a percent of our society has an actual medical condition where you may have a gender issue problem. You know, there are people known as Hermaphrodites. However, that said, the vast majority of people that do this, that self-identify in a different gender, have some sort of a mental illness problem. And I'm not saying that as a bigot. It is written in the New England Journal of Medicine. This has been proven. That, you know, either they have been sexually abused as a child or something happened to them to cause the illness. And if you treat that, especially when they do this, this really ticks me off when you get kids that haven't even hit puberty yet. And you turn around at their birth, say, well, this is not a boy, this is actually a girl, and dress that boy up as a girl, and then start the hormones before the child has even gone through puberty. To me, that's pure child abuse. That's sexual and child abuse.
No question. Yeah. But here's an interesting fact for your audience, Annie. Do you realize the fastest area of plastic surgery is the reversal of sex reassignment surgery? That is the fastest growth in plastic surgery, to reverse those operations, because most of the people who have those surgeries end up regretting it and want to reverse the process to the extent that it's possible. And the other interesting thing is when Bruce Jenner came out, I talked to my doctor. I said 100 years from now, when they dig up Bruce's body, what will they find when they run a DNA test? And they said they will find a male. Based on DNA.
Have you been listening to my past shows?
Medically change your gender.
You have been listening to my past shows. Curtis, how many times have I said that? They dig you up 100 years from now. They run a DNA on your bones. You're going to come up with the one you were born with.
You can't change the X and Y chromosome.
No.
Exactly.
And matter of fact, you touched on another truth, because this is something that Walt Heyer had written about, and his book is called Sex Change Regret, is that the large number of people that have gone through it have asked to be returned back to their original gender. You know, you have a child. The human brain is not sexually developed until the age of 27, in case anyone was unaware of that. At the age of 27, then your brain is fully sexually developed. That said, most kids that are gender confused with they're going through puberty or whatever, by the time they reach 18 to 20, they have solidified in whatever their sexuality is at that point. So having someone go through a gender change before they even hit the age of 20, much less the age of 27, again, is a mental illness.
Right. Oh, there's no question. And I forget whatever this psychological book is. I think it may be the American Psychological Association. They have finally removed this whole transgender stuff. They used to list it medically as a mental condition to be treated. They've removed that from their medical journal now.
Yeah.
And what, 2 weeks ago, Andy, a retired NFL guy. He played in there 5 or 6 years. He was a no-name guy. Played with the Cowboys. A black guy. He's 26 now, so he played in there 2 or 3 years. He came out and said he was bisexual, and I'm like, so no, bisexual means you're confused as hell. Because you can't make up your mind. That's a mental disorder that you're going. How in the hell can you not? You tell me, and well, I like girls, I like boys. I don't know which one, so I go with both. That's confusion right there.
Yeah, but if you're straight, then you're wrong. We had the Straight Pride Parade last weekend up in Boston. God bless those people for having the courage to do that.
Hate-filled group.
So who gets arrested? Not anyone in the parade, but the Antifa that tried to block and break up the parade. And yet, look at all, who was it? AOC, I think, posted, or was it Talab? One of the unholy trio, posted up on Twitter about all the hate-filled, misogynist men. They're saying that the whole parade was just men. And I looked at the video clips of that parade, and you had a fair number of women there, and people of all races, Asian, black, Hispanic, white, it didn't matter. Everyone gathered under the banner of being, hey, we're proud to be heterosexual.
That's homophobic to say you like girls. That I find it very hateful, and I think the FBI should launch an investigation. How dare a male say he likes a woman? How dare he? Did you hear what happened to Drew Brees, the quarterback for the New Orleans Saints?
Yeah.
They released a video from Focus on the Family, and in the video, Drew Brees was supporting this Bring Your Bible to School initiative, and got rave reviews, and yet the homosexual community said it was anti-gay, because he talked about bringing your Bible. Now, mind you, in this video, Drew Brees didn't even mention the word homosexual. Didn't even talk about it. He said, I support the school initiative to bring your Bible to school. And so these homosexuals, Curtis and Annie, if you don't automatically 100% buy into their radical liberal agenda, they're going to call you all kind of names. I did a radio show a few months ago, and after the host introduced me, I said, before we get started, I want your audience to know that I am openly heterosexual. Being funny. I am, Andy. I have a crazy humor sense. And this guy said to me, you are no longer welcome on this network anymore. I said, why not? You're making a mockery out of homosexuality. I said, no. If I come on your show and said I was openly homosexual, you would probably stop your show, bring in a sheet cake, and we would party and celebrate my coming out. But me telling you and your audience, and I'm coming out saying I like women, somehow there's something wrong, and you want to punish and banish me? I said, go toward it. I said, there are plenty of other folks who agree with me and would love to have me on their airwaves, and I hung up.
God bless you for that. Absolutely, God bless you for that. It's gotten too far. It has gone too far. And one of the things that the left has done is succeeded in making this the new norm. So consequently, you have a stunning amount, a record number of people in the United States now no longer affiliated with a religion or a church. They don't identify even as any sort of a sect of Christianity any longer. We have chased people away from the church. Why? Because we want these United States of America to resemble more Sodom and Gomorrah than a Judeo-Christian-based country.
Well, I agree with you. And as you may remember, I graduated from Oral Roberts University, so I feel a lot in the evangelical community. But my criticism of the evangelicals is they are more concerned about being popular. Let me tell you, let me make it perfectly clear, and if you and Curtis don't want me on the show in the future, that's your right. This is your show. Homosexuality is not compatible with my Christian values, faith, beliefs, and Bible. Period. There is no wiggle room. I'm not apologizing. I'm not going to give you a 20-minute preface before I make my statement. They are not compatible, no more so than being a bank robber is compatible with my Christian faith, or being a drug dealer, or being a prostitute. They are not compatible. So a lot of my homosexual friends, when I debate them on TV, their response to me is, well, sin is sin. And I said, you know what? I agree 100% with you. And I said, God doesn't distinguish between homosexuality as a sin, being a bank robber, or being a prostitute. But I said, let me ask you this question. Here's how I shut them down, Annie and Curtis. I said, name me one other sin that people are actually trying to codify and legalize by law. No one's saying, let's make adultery legal. No one is saying, let's make lying legal. No one is saying let's make covetousness legal. Homosexuality is the only sin that people are actually trying to legalize, and that shuts them up because they have no rebuttal to that.
Well, I would have one other: murder, abortion.
Yeah, murder. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And how do you control people? By controlling the population. And how do you control the population? By controlling thought. And this is what they're doing.
Yep.
And everything now becomes codified. You know, the majority of the abortions, thank you, Margaret Sanger, you bigot, are of the black community. And we have the lowest black population in a long, long time. So how do you control the population? Control the very lives, the very bodies. You know, my body, my choice, but what about the choice of that child that you're carrying? And, you know, I got to love, I'm finally seeing billboards coming up pushing for pro-life. I'm starting to see them pop up, and I'm glad these people that are putting those billboards up have the courage to do it. And they've been here in South Carolina, heading down to Georgia. I see a lot of them on the roads going down to Georgia and in Georgia. And thank God for the pushing back to protect life. And
well, here's an interesting stat for your listeners, Annie and Curtis. I did a column a few months ago in New York City, according to their own Department of Health numbers. So this is not from the Heritage Foundation or Cato. This is from the liberal de Blasio's own government numbers. Every year in New York City, there are more black babies aborted than are born. According to their own numbers, more black babies are aborted than are born. Period. That's astonishing.
Yeah. You go to any poor neighborhood in New York City or anywhere in New York State, any poor neighborhood, and that's where you'll see the Planned Parenthood facilities. You're not going to see them in the rich neighborhoods.
There's not one Planned Parenthood set up in a white community, not one. And that's by design.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Ray, we have our next guest in on the line. He called in early, which is fine by me. Do you want to hang out with him? Because he is a Christian, and he's a solid conservative, but he's also a musician with some great music out. Maybe I might get you to become a fan of his if you want to hang out with us.
Well, only if you think I'm worthy, because like I said, there is none righteous, no, not one, and the highest place on earth, Annie, is at your feet.
All right.
Well, I'm just trying to find, oh my goodness, the song I wanted to introduce him with, I don't see. Well, anyway, I'm going to introduce Richard with his song called Keyboard Cowboy, and I'm sure this is something, Ray, that you're familiar with, being that you have your own websites, your blog, you've got your own radio show and everything, as well as your oh, good Lord, I just had a major brain fart. But let me play Richard Lynch, Keyboard Cowboy, before I bring him on air.
I was drinking my coffee this morning, tending to my business like I always do, when all of a sudden my phone started ringing. Said, did you see the post? What's his name said about you? I had to think for a while, then I started to smile. You mean to tell me he's at it again? I guess some fools never learn a hot poker will burn. Yeah, he's acting like a squawking old hen. Well, one thing is true, he wouldn't know what to do if you took his computer away. So let the fun begin, let's all hit send, and he can see what we have to say. He's a keyboard cowboy. I don't think he's ever been out west. A keyboard cowboy. He shoots off his mouth from behind his desk. A keyboard cowboy. He puts it on Facebook, so it must be true. He's a mighty big man with his mouse in his hand, and he's coming after me and you. Here he comes! Just when you think he's all done, he'll go to bumping his gums, and it's easy for us to see a keyboard cowboy. I don't think he's ever been out west. A keyboard cowboy. He shoots off his mouth from behind his desk. A keyboard cowboy. He puts it on Facebook, so it must be true. He's a mighty big man with his mouse in his hand, and he's coming after me and you.
Oh no! I hope he don't come running in after me.
Well, what are you talking about?
You know, I don't want to be a notch in his handle.
He's not that kind of cowboy.
Well, what kind of cowboy is he?
Why, he's just a no-account keyboard cowboy.
I'm gonna have him to time.
How do you spell the tang?
W-A-T-A-N-D, the time.
All right.
Hey, how y'all doing today?
All right. Hey, Richard, how are you two? How are you doing today? That teeth and back.
I'm doing mighty fine today.
I've
I've just been hanging out.
I think you've got a speaker on in the back.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that. All right, can y'all hear me now?
I got you now, Richard. Richard, we also have as our guest with us Raynard Jackson with us. So we're going to have a four-way conversation along with my co-host. You've got a brand new album out, which is called I Think I'll Carry It On, and I love it. I'm still getting...
Well, thank you very much, little lady.
I'm still getting my voice coming up in the background.
Feedback.
Let me see what's going on here. I don't see nothing wrong with my computer here.
Huh.
I don't know. I ain't too good with these things.
Well, we'll take what we can get. You know, you've got a new concert coming out later on this month. Yeah. It's the way you
Yes,
get the
I
speakers.
do.
Because I'm hearing my own voice coming back at me in a delay.
I have no idea what that is.
Do you want to call back on your landline or your cell phone?
The thing is, I'm a busy man, and I got lots of things to do, so I can't really use my other landline. It's being in use right now.
Ah, okay. All right. Well, you've got a concert coming up for the Love Tattoo Benefit Series that you got, and your guest is David Frizzell, Lefty Frizzell's younger brother.
Yeah, well, we got him in the show and everything. Like, he don't ask me if I could join, and I told him yeah, he could join. But the guy came crawling at my door like a fucking nigger from the government, and he's fucking crazy.
Is this really Richard Lynch?
I understand what that meant. I understand what the last caller was talking about with the fags and the niggers and the
right. This is not Richard Lynch. This
the
is
ching.
Not, I'm sorry about that, guys. So I don't know who that was pretending to be.
Wow.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm. And he told me,
wow.
Maybe this is
Annie, I was getting ready to go off on it, but I said, no, this is Annie's show. I'm going to let her handle it, but I was getting ready to blow a gasket right now.
Oh, no. You know you're doing something right when you end up getting someone from the left as obnoxious and disgusting as that individual.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I apologize
but again,
to listeners.
Let's draw them out to the no, Annie. You don't owe us an apology. You didn't say it. This was some crazy liberal who wants to go out there, and the best way to bring these guys out is let them have their 5 seconds in the sunlight, so we can show what liberals like to do. So no, we're good. Heck, no. I was going to crack a joke, Andy, because once you brought me into the conversation, I was going to say to him, how dare you, Andy, have me on the show with this bigot and this homophobe? Because why would he call a song Keystone Cowboy? It should be a Keystone person. I mean, keyboard person. I mean, I'm offended that he used the word cowboy because that's unacceptable, and I was going to laugh about it. But, of course, this person, whoever it was, took it in a different direction. But, no, listen, Annie Hacker. And I hope you don't edit this out of your show. I want you to put this on the air the way it is so the American people can hear this foolishness.
Oh, absolutely. I don't edit my shows. What goes stays. If it happens, even the glitches.
Okay, good.
I'm just. Yep. Besides, I hate listening to myself anyway, so what goes up stays up.
Yeah, because I was stunned when he said, "No, I'm a busy person." I'm like, "Whoa, where the heck is this coming from?"
That should have been clue number one to dummy
me. The man lied to me. He told me he was Richard Lynch.
Well, he probably looked at the description and saw that I had him listed. He couldn't pretend to be Kathy Landing, so he had to pretend to be the other guest. So that's all. Maybe that's AOC's next boyfriend.
And of course, you know who's responsible for this, Annie, is Donald Trump. It was his fault that this happened. So I just want to go on the record and say I agree. President Donald Trump is responsible for this, and I think the House Democrats should launch an investigation as to how this happened, because Vladimir Putin had to be involved in collusion with Trump to make this happen.
Oh, no, and they were posting in the chat room at the start of the show that Trump was going to be impeached because he drew on the chart showing the path of Dorian early on into Alabama. And as a matter of fact, when the storm had passed over my mother, she lives in the Virgin Islands, and I was on the phone with her. And I says, well, from the path it's looking, it looks like it's going to go across Florida, across to the Panhandle, and possibly hit the Gulf. And I was saying this early on, but lo and behold, maybe Donald Trump has someone in his office that was listening to my prediction. So I think maybe the NSA said that she said it's going to go to the Gulf. Yeah. So Trump reported that Alabama's going to
but can you believe the news media has been obsessively covering this Alabama angle? I mean, it's like, this is not even newsworthy. Where the hell are they coming up with this craziness? But again, they are so obsessed with their hatred of Trump, something this ignorant and trivial and menial, they're giving all this airtime to. And I'm telling you, the way the liberals are going right now and the media who's in collusion with the Democrats, Trump is going to get reelected.
Absolutely. Matter of fact, we're going to have Judge Jeanine Pirro on next Friday. We're going to be talking about that because she's got a great book out about Trump and the media's obsession with him. They don't talk about the fact that he's winning the trade war. He's got more countries starting to side with our policies than ever before. We've got absolutely wonderful job numbers. Our economy is booming like it hasn't done in the last 10 years or even longer. We don't talk about the good things that are happening in our country. We're not talking about the wall that is actually being built. No, we got to talk about Sharpie Gate. That's the biggest, newest thing.
Yeah, well, I'm amazed at Annie that you actually have Democrats and liberals actually cheering for bad things to happen to America. I mean, I'm just dumbfounded where you are banking your election prospects on a recession. Bill Maher even came out and said, hey, I hope we do have a recession. And it's easy for him to say that because you know what? He's insulated from it because of the wealth he has and the type of money he makes. And so a recession to him is not going to hurt him. But basically what you're saying is I want to see the country suffer because we didn't go out and vote in 2016 and Donald Trump won. And so in order to get even with someone in the White House that we don't want, we want to inflict pain on the American people. How idiotic is that?
It's absolutely flabbergasting. It is amazing that you want to actually wish bad things to happen. And I was listening to the job numbers being reported. Oh, by the way, there was a Bloomberg News, I think it was, or one of them, reported that Trump, must have had inside information about the job numbers. No, these were published where anyone in the public can look at the job numbers and report on them. You idiot. But they don't back off on that one. Anything he does, the least little thing. And, oh, by the way, what is his wife wearing? And how dare she show up at a disaster relief station wearing expensive shoes or clothing? How dare she? She has to wear dirty jeans and a T-shirt. Any and everything they can pick on and try to show them in a bad light. Instead, they show how much of an idiot they are by doing that.
Yep. Well, as I put it, Annie, weak people take strong positions on weak issues.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's no other excuse for that. And I'm just...
Yeah, but they're going to keep talking themselves into a second Trump term because these liberals, Annie, are not offering any solution. So, okay, you don't like what Trump is doing. Okay, what's your alternative? Oh, well, I'm not Trump. I'm not controlled by Vladimir Putin. Well, show me where Putin is controlling America. Matter of fact, you can really make a factual case and argument that it was the Democrats who were in collusion with Russia, with the dossier. They're the one that made up this whole Russian collusion thing about the urination in bed and all that stuff. So if you want to talk about collusion, it would be the Democratic Party in collusion with Russia.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm sorry. I have to, I'm trying to get a hold of the next guest, his agent, to find out what number our next guest is going to be calling in from. Because I see the troll keeps on popping up in the studio, and we're not going to let that bigoted ass back on the air. That's for damn sure. I mean, I actually had
wow.
one troll actually put my mother's address up, and I went ballistic. I actually contacted the FBI and several other agencies. So when these trolls think they can turn around and get through, you're not messing with this retired cop. BS.
Wow. Well, and also let me make it plain to whoever that caller was, Annie, that you could call me and Curtis anything you want. Do you really think Curtis and I are not going to sleep well tonight because you came on the show and acted a complete nut? Really? Really? Curtis, I don't know about you, but I've been called a lot worse than that, and it didn't impact me once whatsoever because it's not what they call you that matters. It's just what you answer to.
Precisely.
Yeah, I forgot about it already.
Touche.
Oh, man. Jeez. Talking about people saying stupid things and doing stupid things, San Francisco turned around. The city of San Francisco has labeled the NRA a terrorist organization, but they won't do anything about Antifa.
Yep. But, Annie, I agree with you, but why is it that conservatives are totally incompetent when it comes to effectively communicating and refuting this foolishness that you just brought up. I mean, we have all these various media platforms, from Fox News to shows like yours and others, but we just don't forcefully push back on this foolishness, and so a lie that is repeated enough becomes the truth.
Yeah, that's the sad part.
Well, people on our side, I think leadership on our side is so used to so-called taking the high ground. They don't feel that there's a need to respond, and that's opposite of what the layperson wants, and that's why we have Trump in there, because he will respond. He's not going to take anything just down.
Well,
and they haven't learned,
Well, the thing is that we think with our heads. We think logically, and then when we try to refute anything, we use that logic. Where the left does everything with the heart. They use emotion. And I've always said, if you want to get the point across, start using emotion also. Make people think and make the issue a personal issue with you. And when we learn to do that, we can then start winning these arguments. And that's why I said, well, it's perfectly fine to call the NRA a terrorist organization, but you've got an actual group out there hurting people and destroying property, committing crimes called Antifa, and you will do nothing about them but an innocent individual, a patriotic American, a legal gun owner. I don't care what political party you are. You have a legal right, a Second Amendment right to that gun, but because you belong to the NRA, you are now labeled a terrorist within the city of San Francisco. I was going to say New York. I'm sure, but de Blasio's already planning on legislation in New York City soon.
Right. Yeah. Well, only in San Francisco can the killer Case Stanley get exonerated during the trial, which to this day I still don't understand how he even admits the gun was in his hand, and he's going to get off by saying it was an accident. No, it was an accident about your birth. Because if your mother had any sense, she would have aborted you. I mean, how can you allow that to get away? Yeah, I said it, Annie. Now edit me out. Go ahead. No, but this is crazy where we have more empathy for the perpetrators of crime versus the victim and their families of the crime. Well, I don't get it. I don't get it. And so
you have people supporting animal rights, the unborn bald eagles or American eagles, but they will not protect the unborn child or the preborn child, as I call it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. You'll protect what you consider an endangered species, or the Delta smelt, or the tree frog in Oregon, or whatever, but you will not protect another human life.
Yep. Well, in the immortal words of one of my hometown boys, Michael McDonald from the Doobie Brothers, and of course, Annie, you're too young to know who they are. What a fool believes he sees, no wise man has the power to reason away, because what seems to be is always better than nothing at all.
Well, thank you for the flattery there, but I seem to remember debating in school which group was the better one, the Monkees, the Beatles.
Wow. No, you must have read that in the history book, Hag. You come on now, Hag. Now, Curtis, why is this young girl trying to act like she's older?
Curtis has seen my gray hair.
I imagine later spinach today.
Oh man, as that Squatch puts in the chat room, I got some of the greatest people up in the chat room. He puts in there that the eagle egg or the preborn deer fawn has more protections than the preborn human. That's the shameful thing. There was someone actually had this question up on Fox News, and it made me stop, because I said, I've been asking this question for a long time. Our society has become so disposable. Everything has a very short attention span. You no longer have people interacting. So they're asking whether or not we have this uptick in violence and uptick in support of abortion and animals over humans, because we have generations that are growing up disconnected from reality and other human interaction. Is this a societal problem?
Well, that's a great point, and it makes sense to me because, again, and I know I sound like a broken record, but what that listener just laid out, again, it all goes back to the decimation of the nuclear family and the redefining of the family unit. And when you get, Eddie, listen, when I was coming through, this is before the proliferation of the cable channel, we'd come home from school, we would have dinner. There was one TV, and whatever Dad wanted to watch, we had to sit at his feet and watch whatever Gunsmoke or Bonanza and all that stuff. Now you don't have that mealtime hour at 5 or 6, 7 in the evening when all the kids and the family get together. So Mom cooks dinner. Each kid goes to their respective rooms on the internet, on their phone, and eating in their room. There's no family dialogue, no family communication. You go to Thanksgiving dinner, everyone's at the Thanksgiving table on their phone texting. And there's no conversation going on. This is crazy.
Absolutely. You know, kids are not opening up a book. Everything is on their smart device. So they're buried in their smart device almost 24/7. You go out to a restaurant. Tell me how many people have their smart device out there and they're texting someone or they're talking to someone. You go through the grocery store and you think someone's talking to you, turn around and realize that they've got a headset or something on and talking to someone on their smart device.
Right.
Human interaction has become fewer and far between. How many people know the name of their next door neighbor? Know what their next door neighbor even looks like, much less, have any conversation with them. When the storm hit here, the first thing I did was get up on the social network and say, hey, listen, give me a shout, send me a personal message. I will check on your house for you. How many people do that today? How many people are willing to go that extra mile to help someone else out? It doesn't happen.
Well, but you notice, Annie, and all these mass killers, the one common thread they all have is all of them are loners. So they may have 50,000 friends on Facebook and Twitter and all that, but they have no relationship with them. These are people that in most cases you would never meet in person, and you probably never talk to on the phone. And so when you are isolated and lonely like that, you seek attention. And what better way in America to get massive attention? You go out and kill a few people, your name is plastered all over TV. You may be dead, but you get your 15 minutes of fame from the grave.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you look at the people that are in Antifa, once you take off the mask, these are the losers. These are the loners. And why do they wear the masks? So that way they can't be identified for what they truly are. Yep.
Well, the Democrats are famous for terrorizing people covered in hoods.
A good point, Curtis. Great point. And for those who don't know what Curtis is about, we're talking about the KKK.
Yeah. Unfortunately, had its roots here in South Carolina. They were originally known as the Red Shirts, and then they became the KKK, and they were born out of the Democratic Party, out of the Deep South. And it was to keep them also from voting. And I'm trying to remember the name of the Confederate general. He went on to become a South Carolina senator. I think it was Gray was his last name. I may have that wrong. But he was the one that formed the Red Shirts. And his thing was each white man should control a minimum of 3 black men. And that's where the KK was born from. To control the population, control the votes, control the politics, control the economy. And Ray, it has been such a pleasure to have you with us. People can find you at your website, which is your name, Raynard Jackson. You also have 2 other websites. We work with the black business community to advance issues. You have your blog. People can find you on your radio show. Where can they find the radio show?
Yeah, well, they can just go to RaynardJackson.com or just Google my name. All that social media and all that stuff comes up. And, yeah, listen, and it's always great to be on your show. And quit being a daggone stranger. I mean, hell, I'm not as pretty as Curtis, but I'm not chopped liver either.
Well, I have to get a hold of AJ now that you're going through AJ, so I will get a hold of you
Well,
again.
don't
Muhammad
worry,
Ali.
You got
Muhammad
my
Ali
direct
only-
contact.
Okay, I will.
What was that, Curtis?
I said Muhammad Ali's the only pretty one.
Well, yeah, but
Take me
listen,
out.
Curtis, I'm so far down on the totem pole with you and Ali. I'm not even in your galaxy, man.
All right, right. You have a blessed day. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much, Andy and Curtis. Okay, bye-bye.
Right.
All right.
Raynard Jackson. There's also another link to one of his other websites up on the show page, but you can also check him out at his website, RaynardJackson.com. I want to welcome Richard Lynch onto the show. Welcome back, Richard. You've got a brand new album out. And I got to tell you, Richard, we had a little kerfuffle here about half an hour ago. Someone called in pretending to be you. And after about 2 minutes, I realized that the person was an idiot and it was not the gentle, sweet person that you are. So we had a little incident earlier. If you listen to the show, you'll listen to the bigoted idiot that tried to be sweet old you. Welcome to the show, Richard.
Well, Andy, thanks for having me, and I'm amazed anybody will try to be me. That kind of flabbergasts me.
Well, believe me, you wouldn't want to be him.
Actually, he tried a Southern
Wow.
accent. He tried a Southern drawl like yours, and it was horrible. It would be like me trying to pretend to do a Southern drawl. I'm too damn Yankee to do that.
That's a first. That's a first.
You should be honored. I had played your song earlier, Keyboard Cowboy, because we had Raynard Jackson on, and he has some great news blog and a radio show himself, so he's familiar with Keyboard Cowboys. So we gave an early promo to you. Your new album is called I can't talk now. I think I'll carry it on. Tell us about this new album of yours.
Well, most folks know that I'm a traditional country music artist, and I was raised by a gentleman whose talent was pretty incredible. And so, me being raised in that country music household, I'm just glad that I could be influenced by that great music. And I wanted to make sure that this new album, Think I'll Carry It On, does just that. Carries on the traditional country music, the storytelling, the old saying is 3 chords and the truth. A lot of that's going on in this album. And I just want to let people know that I don't want to be a rock and roll star, nothing against rock and roll, but I'm here for one reason, that's to keep my traditional country music alive and well.
We were talking about music a little bit earlier, and I said, well, I seem to remember going to school and debating which was the better group, the Monkees or the Beatles. So that dates me. That really does date me. You've got a concert coming up in less than 2 weeks. I saw this. This is for your charity, the Love Tattoo. Tell us about this.
Well, we are so fortunate that we get to play with who I call my heroes. The folks that's played the Grand Ole Opry and has, their music has been on mainstream radio for decades now. And we got a show coming up the 14th of this month with David Frizzell. And David is the brother of the famous Lefty Frizzell.
Yes.
But David had a lot of great songs in the early 80s with a duet partner named Shelley West, who they had the song "You're the Reason God Made Oklahoma," which was a huge, huge song from back in the 80s. And, of course, David had a lot of his own hits also in his own right as an individual artist. So we're real excited about David coming to our barn in Waynesville, Ohio. And when I say that, people think, coming to the barn? What kind of barn you got? But we're very fortunate. We have built a beautiful, authentic hemlock barn and we have a beautiful stage, and it's nestled around some hay fields and next to a pond, and people get really comfortable and they feel right at home because it's country music and a country atmosphere. And I'm very fortunate we get to do that kind of music and share it with our friends out there.
No, absolutely. It's funny because when I saw this on David Frizzell, I'm saying Frizzell, Lefty Frizzell, and then sure enough, it was Lefty Frizzell's younger brother. We're familiar with the music. My husband, one of his favorite ones. So the Love Tattoo concert, though, it's to benefit who?
Well, we do a lot to help generate interest and funds and awareness of the veterans. Our Love Tattoo Foundation is a foundation that helps keep our veterans, a place for our veterans to go. And we find it unacceptable that there's a lot of suicide being done every day by our veterans, and we're just trying to make awareness that there's a place called the Whirlwind Lodge in northern Michigan that welcomes any and all U.S. veterans to stay. And if they need to speak with psychiatric help, or they need to see a doctor, or they just need some R&R, we've kind of teamed up with them. And, the money we raise for part of our concerts and the money we raise from selling the song goes directly to help those people, not a percentage of it, but the entire part of the money raised for that organization goes to the Whirlwind Lodge, which basically does a lot to help our veterans who I feel are so deserving.
Amen to that one. A huge amen. Now, this new album that you do have out, oh, good Lord, I cannot talk today. Oh, you do something to me. Every time you come on, I have a hard time speaking. So, the new album, Think I'll Carry It On. You've got some collaboration on that one also. Besides your wife, Donna, you have a song on here, The Love Tattoo, with Ronnie McDowell. Tell us about that, the song that he worked with you on that. I played it last night and I love it. This is the same one that you played on the other album, or is this a new remix? I was a little confused. It sounded a little different to me.
This is the same song. The same song. We just did it as a duet. And I got to play a show with Ronnie McDowell here a little while back, and I've always loved his music. And I found out that he did 3 tours of duty in Vietnam. And I was blown away with that, because, I realized, he is he's one of us. He's a red, white, and blue all-American boy, and he loves his music, and he's not afraid to say that. And so when I found out that he was a veteran, I approached him in our show. I said, Ronnie, I got this song that I think would be of interest to you. And he listened to it, and he said, yeah, I'd love to get in the studio with you. So we got in the studio, and we re-recorded Love Tattoo with Ronnie doing a part, me doing a part, and then us singing harmony together with each other. But, it's just a little way to where we can kind of add a little more interest and make a little more awareness of the old song that we've had out for a couple of years now, and just kind of refreshing everybody with a new take with Ronnie McDowell singing a part on the song.
Well, let me play that song because I really did love it, and I loved the way his voice blended with you. So this is Richard Lynch and Ronnie McDowell on Love Tattoo. That's if it's going to play now. Why isn't it playing? There we go.
His God, his kids, his wife. For them, he gladly give his life. He served his country as many do, and he came home with a love tattoo. I remember when the soldier walked past. He paused as he heard a young child ask, "Where'd you get that scar I see on you?" He smiled and said, "It's not a scar, it's my love tattoo." The soldier said, "To keep our world more safe for you, I fought and bled as many do. I did what I knew I had to do. No, it's not a scar, it's my love tattoo. My love tattoo is a symbol to remind him how we fought with pride for our red, white, and blue. If Uncle Sam asked him to stand with our soldiers in some foreign land, he'd unpack his uniform and combat boots, and with honor bring back home a new love tattoo. My love tattoo helps me recall some of my friends who gave their all. They fought and died as many do, so I'm proud to wear my love tattoo. He loves his God, his kids, his wife. For them, he gladly gave his life. And he served his country like heroes do. And he came home with a love tattoo. Yes, he came home with a love tattoo.
I love the drums at the end. I just love that. What a wonderful song.
Kind of gives an element. Well, thank you. Kind of gives an element there of the, kind of like taps or something there that just shows sincerity to the song and to the reason for the song, which is the veterans.
Now, when I was listening to that, I was wondering, in the future, would you be thinking of doing a similar type of song for those of us that are law enforcement?
Oh, absolutely. I would love to be a part of that. The songs have come, they come in different funny ways, how you're inspired to write a song. But yeah, anything like that there. And I'm always willing to collaborate with writer and kind of get their ideas to bring together a song such as a direction for law enforcement. That's a pretty noble cause, actually.
The funny thing is, because when I was listening to that, I had recently bought a dress, and I don't wear sleeveless dresses usually because of my scars. I don't want everyone to go staring at me and go, what's going on there? So the song, it just caused me to pause and think. So, yeah, I'd love to hear you do something like that. That would be great for a new album. You've got.
Well, like I say, it's a matter of getting a song together, and maybe that direction will happen someday. I hope so.
Oh, absolutely. I was listening, as I said, listening to the thing last night, and it was just, playing song after song, and all of a sudden I started tapping my feet, and I looked up and go, this is a great two-step. You have a collaboration with Leona Williams, another honky-tonk song. I literally, my feet were starting to tap on the floor, and I'm going, it's a two-step. When was the last time you heard a really good honky-tonk two-step?
Well, thank you. I was working a lot in Texas the last several years, and back last January and February, we were hearing these great Texas bands playing that two-step music, and I told my wife, Dawn, I said, I've got to write a song that's got that feel and it's got that direction. And I grabbed my guitar and, started talking about kicking out some ideas, and the next thing you know, the old honky-tonk. I mean, I grew up, cut my teeth playing country music and all the old honky-tonks. That's becoming a thing of the past these days. There's not as many of them, of course, but I wrote that song, and I had it written, and my wife said, what would really be cool if we could find a duet partner that would team up with you. And it just so happened that we had just booked Leona Williams to come to our show, this was earlier in the year. We booked her later in the year for her to come do a show. I said, why don't we reach out to Leona and see if she might be interested in at least listening to that song and consider doing a duet with me. And sure enough, she heard the song and she said, I'm in. So we got a studio and we had a blast recording that.
There's just certain people that are just fun to work with. It's like when I do the show here, there's just certain people that I love having on because they're so much fun to talk to. But like I said, you don't often hear a two-step, and it's perfect. So I'm going to be playing that song, another honky-tonk song, and let's just hope I can get my soundboard to behave. Okay, here we go.
Miss Leona, I've been thinking. I know I owe a lot to those old honky-tonks. When I'm there, I know that's where I belong. My five-piece band on Saturday night, and the neon shining bright, and some two-step dancers twirling all night long. What do you think, Miss Leona?
I know I owe a lot to those old honky-tonks. They're the reason that I get to sing my songs. Makes me mighty proud when Yes Man's playing loud, and some two-step dancers twirling all night long.
Thanks, country music, for being good to us.
And thank you for the chance to sing our songs.
We make no excuses, it's not mysterious.
We just think it's time for another honky-tonk song.
From the thick smoke and the dim lights of those honky-tonks, to the opera stage my heroes have been singing on. Some say the music sure has changed, but the circle at the opera is still the same. So there's not a better time for another honky-tonk song.
Thanks, country music, for being good to us.
And thank you for the feelings in our songs.
We make no excuses, it's not mysterious.
We just think it's time for another honky-tonk song. We just think it's time for another honky-tonk song.
All right, Richard Lynch. Richard Lynch is our guest, and his new album out. If I can get this right, Richard, you're going to kill me by the end of the show. Think I'll Carry It On, recently released. Richard, I'm sorry. I'm going nuts today. Go ahead, Curtis.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
Hey, I want to first say that I love your music. I'm into traditional country, too. A lot of this new stuff I just can't get into. But I was just curious, who were some of your influences? Who did you look up to? Who inspired you?
Well, I tell you, I have to tell you, I grew up in a country music household, and all my life I've heard those greats. My dad had all the greats growing up. But when I realized, as I got a little older, who was the most influential, who I think is the most powerful country singer of all time, would have to be Conway Twitty. I mean, he absolutely could sing a song, knew how to pick a song, could write a song, and put every fiber of his emotion into that song. And I think maybe, I'm speculating here, but I think maybe the reason that, my music is, starting to resonate and, be played a lot these days is the fact that I'm putting emotion back into the songs that's kind of been, gone by the wayside here lately. And I think it's time we put some emotion back into the country songs because, country songs are supposed to be happy, sad, tell a story, talk about a way of life, whether you're digging coal in a coal mine, or if you're pulling taters, or if you're, on top of the world looking down on creation. Country music is supposed to be full of different emotions and different experiences. And I think it's time that, a lot of folks like to hear that emotion back in the music again.
Well,
and see, people like myself and Ray Charles and Charlie Parker, other musicians, black musicians, they love country too because of the music, but more so the stories that they told. And I love to listen to the stories that are being told in country music.
Absolutely. You mentioned Ray Charles. Ray Charles had an appreciation for traditional country music before most of his peers ever dreamed of it. And Ray Charles did so much. He did an immense amount of good to get country music to be more mainstream than almost anybody. He came up in the 60s, and it was an amazing event to sit and watch him collaborate with people like Willie Nelson. He collaborated with Hank Williams Jr. People don't realize how many artists that Ray Charles did duets with. And it's amazing what his contribution was to country music.
Yeah, Bo Cephas.
Oh, yeah.
Hank Williams Jr. Bo Cephas. I love that guy.
You got
it. Someone mentioned Johnny Cash. As a matter of fact, I'm reading a new biography on him, and we should be having the author on the show coming up soon. It's amazing what was happening back then when music was really music. And today, you hear everything that goes into not necessarily even a studio. It's just on a computer. It's not real. It's artificial. It's computer generated. And there was something on the radio. My husband and I were driving somewhere, and I'm listening to that, and it's like the entire lyrics consisted of one line being repeated over and over and over again. Somewhere along the way, when we came into the rock age and we became more electronic than with actual instruments and people playing the instruments, we've lost the ability to create true music.
I think there's a lot to that. I did an interview here recently on a major station, and the disc jockey told me, he said, Richard, today's music has really been just dumbed down, and I never thought of it that way, but the lyric content has not been, enticing enough to where it can keep my interest, or a lot of folks, and so how many songs can be sang about a guy in the back of a pickup truck drinking beer, chasing a girl? It's repetitive. Nothing wrong with that, but there's so much more to music than just that one topic. And so, once again, I think that's the reason that, I'm having the success that I'm having and the different things going on with my music is that I've kept it, to where it's got the emotion, it has a storyline, it has the ability to connect with somebody. I wrote a song recently, and I wrote it, and I sang it for the first time, and a lady walked up to me and said, it's almost as if, who wrote that song for me. And that's what country music's supposed to be, relatable, and they can understand that song because they're in some way lived part of that song in their own life.
Well, what I find amazing, when you look at really good musicians and singers, the truly ones that can tell the story of the song and you feel it and you're emotional, most of these, I find, have their background in gospel singing. Do you find that also?
Very true. I'm a huge fan of Jimmy Fortune, and Jimmy is he was the tenor singer for the Statler Brothers for many years. And then when the Statler Brothers retired, Jimmy went out on his own and has pursued and is still pursuing his own individual artist. He performs an immense amount. And he writes these songs, and he will tell you how he grew up in church and how there was such a gospel influence on him. And I'm just using Jimmy for an example. There's many, many folks that has that same experience. But if you listen to his music, you feel the raw emotion, and you feel the content, what he's trying to say, overwhelm you. I mean, he has an ability to sing like no other, but he has also the ability to write a song that makes you realize what he's writing about. And the gospel end of it is pretty important. And I'm not a gospel singer, not a gospel writer, but I'm seeing, and I'm able to write some tunes that kind of give that country boy feel with just a little touch of inspiration and a little touch of appreciation for the man upstairs. And I think it's needed these days.
Well, I find that when you listen to gospel, or if you are singing it, you are saying a prayer or relating a story or emotion. And I think maybe that is why and you have to have a good range. I mean, I've stood next to some people in church, it's like hands over my ears. But you have to have a good range in order to sing a lot of these things. And I think maybe that's why you get your start in gospel, and it makes you an even better singer in whatever the genre is. You look at the greats like Billie Holiday, Dionne Warwick, and all the others, and their start is in gospel.
I think you're 100% correct. There's a lot of folks that, especially in country music, they kind of want you to throw a gospel song out there. If you're, especially if you're doing a theater type of show or a family-oriented show, they like to hear a little splash of gospel music out there, and I don't think there's a thing in the world wrong with that. And so I'm lucky I've got a couple songs that kind of have that gospel connection. I have a song that I wrote doing an interview, actually. I wrote a song called Pray on the Radio. And, it's not wrote intentionally as a gospel song, but when people hear it, you right away think this could very well be a gospel song. Songs are meant to be interpreted. And just because I write it one way, a lot of people will interpret it a little differently than what I wrote, which is great because they made the connection with the song, and they made the connection with something that I didn't necessarily think about. So it's another level of connection with your fans that like your music.
No, absolutely. Now, are you on tour right now?
No, we did a local show. I live in southwestern Ohio, which is just about 30 miles north of Cincinnati. We played a local show this afternoon, had a blast, came home, and I got a little bit of hay I've been working on for the last couple of days, so got to get the farm chores done. And then tomorrow evening we are doing a show in southern Ohio, right against the south part of Ohio, which is not too far from the West Virginia border. So we're not on tour, as you would think, but we're playing a lot of regional dates these last couple of weeks.
And people can find you on your website, which is your name, richardlynchband.com, and they can check out your tour dates and your albums and everything there. You're still doing the TV show, Traditional Lynch, right?
We sure are, and we have some new episodes in the near future being made. Whenever we do our events here at our farm, we we have a 5-camera shoot, and we televise, us and our guests, and we create segments out of that show for our television show, traditionally Lynch. And there are some little snippets and stuff of other concerts and stuff that we play around the country that we'll sneak in a snippet or two in the show, traditionally Lynch. So, somebody who turns it on might see themselves on there. You never know who you're going to run into.
Won't be seeing my smiling face, that's for sure.
We're going to try to change all that.
Oh, man. I can't remember. Have I ever been to Ohio? I may have flown through Cincinnati. I don't remember. Someone asked me recently, how many states have you visited? And this is a little-known fact that most Americans, the maximum number of states they will visit in their entire lifetime, if they even exit their own state, is only 8. And I counted them, and I've been to about 27. I may have missed 1 or 2 on the list. But, it's a lot of fun traveling. It's got to be when you go with your band.
Oh, it is. It's a lot of work, but, there's nothing better and more gratifying for me to meet somebody out on the road somewhere, and they spent their hard-earned money to come to our show or to buy our music or to, buy our merchandise, and they just want just a little piece of your time just to say they get to know you. And I'm thankful for that. I'd stand in line all day if somebody wanted to talk with me. It doesn't matter to me. I thoroughly enjoyed that, and I just love the fact that I can make that connection with that person.
Oh, that's a huge amen. Huge amen. It's always fun to perform, and when you get done stepping off the stage, it's like, oh, you're like a wet rag. But Richard, it's a great album. I'm telling people to go to your website to get your new album, which is Think I'll Carry It On. Hey, I managed to do that correctly for once.
You got it, Annie.
It took a little practice. It makes perfect. It's a great album with a lot of good songs on it. And you mentioned the song Pray on the Radio. And I think I'll leave off with that one because that song and that story is such a touching story. Why don't you tell the story and how you ended up writing it? Because it's not something you expected to do at the moment you did it.
Well, it's amazing how that song came to be. We were on tour with a radio promotion tour, a 3-state radio tour with a song called We're American Proud, and we were all over the place playing that song, doing the radio tour. Well, I just received a phone call from our manager and said, hey, listen, there's a radio station in California that wants to do an interview with you, so be prepared because they want to do it live. And I said, okay, let's see if make it happen. Well, I no sooner hung up the phone, and the phone rang, and it was the radio station in California. And the first thing they said to me was, wow, Richard, we love your music. We see, how busy you are. He said, I think the Lord must be traveling with you. We was just burning the roads up. And I jokingly and laughingly said, I would like to think so. Well, the interview went on, and we talked a little bit. And towards the end of the interview, he said, Richard, do you mind if we pray on the radio? Well, I'd never been asked that before, and I was completely blown away. Well, this wealth of emotion came over me. My hair stood up on the back of my neck. And envision me driving down the interstate, holding a phone to my head, and this song landed at me. It had to be written right then. That inspiration hit me right there. So I'm driving down the road, and never would there be a pad of paper anywhere, but there was a pad of paper between me and my wife that day. And never would there be a pencil or a pen to be found, but there was a pen right there on the dashboard. And I'm driving down the road, and I'm starting to write these lyrics that's coming to me then and there. And my wife looked over at me, and she had eyes big as silver dollars, thinking, oh, my gosh, you're going to get us killed. So she grabbed the pad of paper and the pen, and she was writing exactly what she heard me say from the conversation that I was having with the disc jockey in California. So the interview concluded, we hung up, and I had her read it back to me. I said, that's the song. So everything that she wrote and she heard me say is exactly how the conversation went with the disc jockey from California. Everything is exactly how it went.
Oh, well, we're going to play that song. Let me cue it up and get on.
I've been writing my songs and telling my stories. I finally got my songs played on the radio. I've been doing interviews around the country. And then one day a DJ asked me, can I pray with you? He said, do you mind if we pray on the radio? Do you mind we talk about the Lord? I truly believe that God's watching over you. You know there's no better company than Jesus while you're out on the road. I told the DJ right then I'd be more than happy to share my thoughts and inspirations about my songs. I'm thankful God likes my music enough to ride with me. So if you're hearing my country music, then know that Jesus tags along. Do you mind if we pray on the radio? Do you mind if we talk about the Lord? I truly believe that God's watching over you. You know there's no better company than Jesus while you're out on the road. I know there's no better company than Jesus while we're out on the road.
All right, Praying on the Radio by Richard Lynch. Richard, it is such a great album. I'm telling people they got to go to your website, richardlynchband.com, and get your latest album. It is fantastic.
Well, thank you, Andy. It's always a pleasure to be on the show with you and listen to you folks and have conversations with you, and just to be around you folks is a blast.
Well, if people are in the Ohio area, can they still get tickets to the concert on the 14th?
We do have some tickets left. We're kind of limited. We can only seat about 350 thereabouts, and so it don't take long before it's completely sold out. But we do have tickets available, and they can buy them online. I don't know that we could mail them to them at this point. Maybe so, but we don't have a problem having folks come to the door and getting tickets that way. So either way, I can tell you they will not regret the show. The farm is beautiful. The barn itself is beautiful. The sound in there is phenomenal. And, it's just a welcoming, warm place to be. And if you love traditional country music, you're going to make friends and see friends you ain't seen in a while.
And it's all to benefit the Love Tattoo Foundation that you and your lovely wife run.
Absolutely. It all goes for a great cause to help our veterans.
All right. And Curtis, you had another last question?
Well, I was just going to ask him, when will he be in Florida again?
We have a Florida date that we're working on right now. I don't think we've locked it in just yet, but any folks that's listening to this, if you have a question as to where our location will be or coming up, just go to our website, richardlynchband.com, and it's constantly being revamped and remade as these new shows come up. It's being reposted often, so if you don't see anything that moment, the next week or so, it'll be changed again, and we'll probably see something at that point. But yeah, we got a lot of different connections around Florida that we're putting together as we speak.
Good.
Fantastic.
All right, I'd like to see y'all.
It's got to come up to the
Well, I sure
Jacksonville
hope
area.
we get to see you guys in the very near future.
Well, I'm about 3 hours from Jacksonville. That would be one heck of a car ride for me. So, well, Richard, it has been
a 3-hour car ride for me, the trip to Walmart these days.
Wally World. Good old Wally World. And I'll tell you, you go to Wally World, all you have to do is just sit there and watch people walk around you. You see some of the strangest looking people, I swear, including us.
No doubt.
Including us.
No doubt.
I don't know why that one store always attracts really weird looking people, but for something about Wally World, it should call it Wacko World. Anyway, Richard, God bless you for the hard work you do, and we'll be talking with you soon.
Well, thank you. It's always a blast to talk with you guys. If you need me, feel free to contact me anytime.
Yeah, I'll get you through, Michael. Take care, Richard.
Oh, me.
And have fun.
Take care, y'all. Bye-bye.
All right.
Richard Lynch, richardlynchband.com, and check out his new album. We've got a little over 45 minutes left, and it looks like our other guest, Kathy Landing, is not back home after evacuating from Hurricane Dorian, because she's stationed up in the area around Myrtle Beach that got hit hard last night. So if anything, they may only start to come back into the area. So I'll get a hold of her office and see if I can get her rescheduled. She's running for the congressional seat that used to be Mark Sanford, that's held now by Joe Beer Can Cunningham. So we'll see if we can make that seat red again.
Beer Can.
The story went is that he attempted to bring onto the floor of the House the very first day a 6-pack of beer. So
what was the purpose?
He claims he was going to make it as a gift to a fellow member of Congress, but you're not allowed to bring alcoholic beverages onto the floor of Congress, guys. That's a huge no-no. And not only that, it's a 6-pack. How do you sneak a 6-pack? I can understand a hip flask or something slipped into your attaché case, but a 6-pack of beer, really? Sorry.
They must have bribed security.
No, he didn't get past security. Thank you, Capitol Police. Anyway, want to thank everyone that's been joining us up in the chat room and everything. I had a bunch of stories here that I wanted to talk to Ray about, but we'll swap them back and forth here, Curtis. One of the things we were talking about, the LBGT community, and in Leander, Texas, which is about 22 miles northwest of Austin, their city council voted to end, not to start or to support, to stop the drag queen story time for children. We talked about this. I don't know if you were with us on the show when I did talk about this, the drag queen story hour, where they're actually, brainwashing little kids.
I've heard of it. I've read of it.
Yeah. Little kids, you got little toddlers, and making it sound as if this drag queen thing is perfectly normal, the new norm, as I was calling it. And it turned out that Mary Elizabeth Castle, who is policy advisor for Texas Values, a nonprofit organization that promotes faith, family, and freedom, said that these people, that the drag queens, were actually adult nightclub performers. So what sort of moral message are you sending children when you have adult nightclub performers doing these story time hours? And it wasn't even the traditional fairy tales. they were just making up the stories to fit their lifestyles. This is not something that a parent should have their child exposed to. It is completely... Well, thank God this Texas town said, we're not going to allow this to occur any longer. The reason being, this is the reason they've given. Leander Mayor Troy Hill said, we brought in $1,800 in rental fees and we spent $20,000 in security. That's not good math to me. So they said, we can't afford to host you guys anymore, so we're going to use this as our reason to shut down the drag queen story hour. So, people are starting...
It's good enough.
Good enough. Absolutely good enough.
I mean, good enough of a reason to stop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I had mentioned about San Francisco outlawing marking the NRA as a terrorist group. Well, Joe Biden follows up with that. He makes a call. I'm sorry, sometimes you just can't make this stuff up. This came off of flagandcross.com. And they write on their website, Biden recently showed his IQ is smaller than his shoe size by stating he wanted to ban gun magazines that, and I quote, hold multiple bullets in them. What do you think the purpose of a gun magazine is for?
I tell you, that guy's the gift that keeps giving.
What? I'm sorry. Even a cylinder of a revolver holds more than one round in it. So, here you got a cop in a gunfight, and you're only allowing him or her one bullet at a time. So, what do you think the perp has? He's got multiple rounds in his magazine. It doesn't matter.
I guess he didn't watch any. I guess he didn't watch any cowboy movies growing up.
No. Hey, Uncle Joe. Crazy Uncle Joe. Here's a newsflash. All magazines hold more than one round.
The guy's can see now. He ought to retire from the political scene.
Oh, jeez. Now, I don't know if anyone caught any of the CNN shows with each and every one of the town halls, actually. CNN was holding these town halls with all the Democratic candidates one at a time. And every last one came up with some harebrained climate change policy. And, we had, who was it that one of them wanted us to stop eating beef. Bernie Sanders wants us to stop procreating. Some of their plans. Yang wants us to turn in our gas guzzlers, as he called them, our petroleum-based vehicles, and instead buy electric cars. He wanted to confiscate our cars and force us to buy electric cars. So then he says, well, no, you can't really force people to do that, but we want to phase out all gas-based vehicles by a certain year. Some of the things they were coming up. And then you got Beto O'Rourke, who opted to not fly on a plane, but to drive a bus along his election route. Some of these things are just, they're the gifts that keep on giving this election cycle. It's like one harebrained scheme after another year coming out of them. It's hysterical.
When is the next debate?
I really don't know. And honestly, I ain't going to be watching it, that's for sure.
I'm just curious who made the list.
I know it's down to 10.
I think they're only going to have 10.
Yeah, I know it's down to 10. And talking about climate change, here's another gift that keeps on giving, and I can't wait to see this seat turn red. AOC, and she was up on Twitter, And she's blaming Hurricane Dorian, basically saying Dorian is a racist hurricane because it affects poor people. This is her tweet. This is what climate change looks like. It hits vulnerable communities first. I can already hear climate deniers screeching, "It's always been like this, you dim," etc. No, this is about science, she writes. We either decarbonize and cut emissions, or we don't and let people die. So she's blaming Hurricane Dorian on climate change and saying it's racist because it hits poor communities. No, it hits communities. It doesn't care if you're rich or poor. It hits those along the coastal areas, low-lying areas. And lo and behold, you've got all types of people living in those areas. You've got rich houses being destroyed as well as poor houses. So obviously she has no idea what causes a hurricane and how a hurricane behaves. I mean, sometimes you just can't make this stuff up.
I'm surprised you didn't blame it on Trump. You know, they got this thing about that HARP program and how they can control the weather and things like that. I wouldn't be surprised if we hear some of that in the next week or two, how Trump got this program to take out the poor people in the Bahamas.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and if anyone is interested on donating to the disaster relief that's in the path of Dorian, go to my website, which is Southern Sense, put a dash in the middle, Southern-Sense, and click on where it says disaster relief. We have up there several different things that you can click on. Samaritan Purse, Red Cross, I forget what some of the others are. There's also one through, not my church, but my diocese, where they are putting together shiploads of goods right now to go specifically to the Bahamas. So if you want to donate, they're putting together, what is it called? It's a water processing where they can desalinate the salt water, bring the equipment down there so they can convert salt water into drinkable water because they're short on water. So instead of shipping bottles of plastic bottles of water down there, they're bringing down the equipment to turn salt water into drinkable water. And it makes a heck of a lot more sense.
Potable water.
Yes. Okay, so click on my website, Southern Sense, put a dash in the middle, southern-sense.com. Click on where it says relief on there, and you can make your donation. I'm not putting up there some fly-by-night, and you got to be careful because my husband mentioned to this, and I love my husband, he's an angel, that he was predicting that out of the woodwork, you're going to get a lot of these bogus charities and reliefs, and people are going to try to steal your money, and not a penny of it will go to the actual disaster relief. I'm getting some really crazy desalinization. Thank you, Vito. That's the word I was trying to find. So yeah, click on our website to make a donation to the relief fund there. There's so much more to talk about, Curtis, and I don't even know where to even start on some of this, but I did want to mention the passing of our friend Kel. Everyone knows her as Kel Fritzy. Her name actually was Kelly Ann Fitzgerald, our friend out of Canada, who had her own show, Red Fox Radio, and she was up on Global Patriot Radio. She passed away in the start of August. She had been ill for a while. Some people had been texting me and sending me emails asking about her, and I've known Kel ever since I started this show. She was one of the first people that started listening, and that was when Cool Mike was doing his own show. G-Ski was up on the radio. These are people that are now gone. They're still, I don't mean gone. They're not doing their shows any longer. But Kel had started her show around the same time I did, and we got to become friends. And we would talk on the phone often. Send messages to each other, emails about articles, things that are going on. And when Kel would call up or I would call her, we would be on the phone easily. Half an hour is a short phone call with us, 45 minutes. And then she would also get on the phone with my husband for another 45 minutes. As I mentioned earlier in the show, that if anyone ever noticed that I wear a crucifix around my neck and it stays on 24/7, the only time it comes off is when I go for an X-ray or an MRI or for a surgical procedure or a CAT scan. It's the only time it comes off. It goes with me even when I'm in the shower. And it's the crucifix that Cal sent me. And it's the Sword of St. James that you can find on Vlad Tep's website. And she was so sweet and so kind, and she bought it and sent it to me. Out of the blue, just out of the blue. It's the type of person she was. She was supposed to travel last summer down here to visit my husband and I, and she wasn't able to make it because she was starting to get ill. She had problems with her back and everything else. And before we moved to South Carolina, my husband and I had lost a dear friend to cancer. And when Cal mentioned some of her symptoms, I thought, listening to what she was talking about, I had a strong suspicion that she was dealing with a serious illness, possibly cancer. And it turns out it was. And she lost her valiant battle. But Cal was a fighter to the very end. Probably going to lose it here in a few minutes. She helped a lot of people along the way. She would help people put together shows. She was my co-host before you, Curtis, for more than 2.5 years. First, she worked with Cool Mike and me. Then she went to work with Dan Butcher and me on this show. She would host it when I wasn't able to host it, whether I was traveling or in the hospital or whatever. She would step in. She's worked with you a couple of times, Curtis, on this show. And she did her own.
Oh, yeah.
She helped a lot of other people put their shows together. And often she would edit them and put them back out, so they played smoothly in the archives. She would travel around to England and to other places to speak to crowds, to groups on the issue of Islam and other issues. Wild Bill, she helped when he traveled up to Canada, even though he got busted at the border for being a conservative, for having hate speech on his phone. They confiscated it at the border and tried arresting him. But Cal was with him on that. No, seriously, Wild Bill Finley. She helped a lot of people with their shows. So she is going to be a huge hole in the Blog Talk family and on SHR Media, a huge hole in the family because of her passing. And that said, she had a favorite song, and I've got it pulled up, and I'm going to cue it up to play it. And this is Fox on the Run, and in memory of our friend Cal. If I can pull this up correctly. Well, come on, play. It's not playing. Here we go.
Before
in memory of our dear friend Kel Fritzy. Boy, I'm going to start losing it again, Curtis. So you better talk. I lose you, Curtis?
Yeah, it's kind of difficult for me too. No, you're not losing. You know, it's like losing a family member. I remember her, you know, for being supportive and for assisting me on those days that you were absent, you know, for, you know, whatever reason you had to be off the show. She was always, you know, helpful, and I always felt, you know, really secure having her, you know, with me. And I liked her playfulness. You know, we kind of did some innocent flirting and stuff in the beginning, and I like to see, you know, what she, you know, discussed in the chat room about wine and cheese with Angel and a couple of the others, and you know, her voice was magnificent. You know, her radio voice, and she was very articulate and very friendly, and I like that she did, you know, think enough of me to invite me on her show a couple of times to speak to the Canadian audience. And, you know, I just found it strange that, you know, I didn't see her name pop up in the chat room the last maybe 2 months. You know, I guess it was sporadic, and then all of a sudden it's just dropped off. And I think that's when I, you know, asked you about Kel. You know, where's Kel? What's up with Kel? And you said you wasn't sure, you know, that you would check into it. Well, I wrote her. You know, I sent her an email and never heard back from her. So now I know why. You know,
yeah.
She was gone.
Yeah.
But I will miss her. And ask about, you know, the best I can do for this moment, you know.
Yeah.
Well, you know, remembrance of her.
Well, Vito is putting together a show on Tuesday night in the slot that Kel normally has. Vito is going to be up on Global Patriot Radio. His show is the Mamma Mia No Sharia. So he's saying that it's going to be an open mic. People can call in of their memories of Kel because she was out there and helped a lot of people out there. So, yeah, she will be missed. I had placed something up on my Facebook page and was getting a lot of memories were being posted up on there. And I did not play the Regrets version of Fox on the Run because I knew Vito is putting this show together, and I figured I'd let him play it. You know, let's do a different version. You know, Cal would appreciate that, I think. So check out Vito's show. Vito, if you have a link, put it up in the chat room. Also, feel free, Vito, to post it onto my pages up on the Twitter feed as well as the Facebook page, Vito, so people can see where you're going to be at on Tuesday, and so they can pop into the show and talk about Kel. All right.
Well, thank God we have the podcast, because I can go back and listen to her voice the times that, you know, she co-hosts with you or myself. That'll be a real treat, you know.
Yeah.
So she will remain alive with forever.
She'll remain alive in cyberspace and in our hearts all the way. And every day.
Oh, yeah.
Every day when I touch my crucifix, she will be remembered because of the love and joy that she brought so many people. And she was a devil of a fighter, the Red Fox. So.
Yep.
Oh, man.
My only regret is not, you know, having ever met her in person, you know.
No, ironically, I was supposed to meet her and Paul Sutliff this past June, but I ended up being scheduled for surgery on when I was supposed to be flying to go up and meet her. So we were planning on hooking up later on up in the Albany area. She was going to drive down from Toronto to meet Paul and myself and my husband. But that's not going to be now. So, oh well. Paulie, if you're out there listening, we'll get up there to Albany area in the near future. But unfortunately, we'll have to have a drink in memory of Kel when we do get together. So, anyway, so Vito is saying that the time slot will BTR, which will be on IAW, is 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's going to be the IAW Red Fox Memorial. So thanks, Vito.
Okay, IAW.
Yeah, again, Vito, feel free to post it up on my Twitter feed as well as my Facebook feed, so people will know about it through my stuff. Post it also, if you can, onto SHR Media, their page too, so people can join in and remember our dear friend. Oh, wow. So, all right, Curtis, what's next?
Well, we have to defeat the Democrats, and I think she would love that to happen. So
yeah.
I'm going to continue to fight. I'm actually working on a new novel. I have to send it to you. I think I told you about it a couple of weeks ago. And I got enough chapters, sample chapters for you to read. And
yeah, you sent me a sample. You sent me a sample chapter, but I haven't been able to get to it because I've been in the middle of reading Judge Pirro's book as well as the book on Johnny Cash. So I haven't been able to get to your chapters just yet. So I'm juggling 2 books already.
Well, I'm going to send you an updated version, so just ignore the first one. Because as writers, we love to edit. We love to edit, and it's amazing that we ever get anything out. We're always editing.
Oh, and I have to be honest. I have tried to start to write my book. I got down to starting the outline, and as you said, you keep on editing, and then I start to read a sample of some of the chapters I started writing. And I go, "This is awful. This is absolutely disgusting." Delete. So I'm going nowhere fast. I'm actually going backwards.
What's the premise of it?
My book is it's going to be lightweight. It's going to be just in life there must be love and laughter. And just my take on life. Because if anything, there was a lot of love and laughter that was brought to life by Kel. So and Vito is telling us to call anytime during the 2 hours into the show on Tuesday. And you've got other people that have your backs. We watch out for everyone. This is one big family out here. So, that said, man, I don't even know now. I had so much stuff I wanted to talk about with Ray. Here's a brilliant thing. And this is something I know Kel would have taken off and just went hysterical on. All right, I'm just going to read the article. This was up on Flag and Cross also. NBC host, what the heck was this host's name? Oh, Chris Hayes. This is Chris Hayes.
Who's that?
He's a host on MSNBC. It's the Marxist Socialist.
The show I never watched.
The Marxist Socialist Nazi Broadcasting Company, MSNBC. Chris Hayes said, "The weirdest thing about the Electoral College is the fact that if it wasn't specifically in the Constitution for the presidency, it would be unconstitutional." Did that make any sense? I'll read it again.
Nah.
The weirdest thing about the Electoral College is the fact that if it wasn't specifically in the Constitution for the presidency, it would be unconstitutional.
What brand of glue was he sniffing?
Oh man, it's this. You just can't.
Anything that's not in the Constitution isn't constitutional. Guess he didn't learn that. Doesn't know the meaning of Constitution, I guess. I'll send him one of those old encyclopedias. Remember those? Before they had computers, they used to buy these volumes of books called encyclopedias.
Oh man!
I don't know what people done with those things.
I'm telling you, you just really cannot make some of these things up. You just really can't. And then when people say something so stupid that members of their own party call them out, such as Deborah Messing, or as the president calls her, the bad actor Deborah the Mess Messing of Will and Grace fame, had posted on hers that she wanted, her suggestion to publicly identify the names of President Trump's donors attending the fundraiser, which could lead to a blacklist. And then her co-host on that terrible TV show, what the heck was his name? He backs it up and says, "Oh yes, let me know who they are, because I don't want to have to work with someone that donates to Trump." When you get to the point,
they are so childish.
When you get to the point where you want to blacklist someone because of their political views, you are going to prevent them from getting a job, from earning a living, and possibly even chase them out of where they live because they make a donation to a political party you do not agree with. That stinks of pure McCarthyism. And Trump called her out saying it is McCarthyism. Yeah. So, well, all right, fine. Blacklist everyone that donates to Trump, and then we, in turn, will make a blacklist of anyone that donates to, say, Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, Kamala Harris, AOC, Rashid Tlaib, or any one of them on the Democrat. We'll make our list, and we'll refuse to hire you. How does that feel now with the shoe on the other foot? You don't like it so much. And Whoopi Goldberg, who normally marches in lockstep with Deborah Messing, has said it's a dumb idea. Whoopi Goldberg and Thorpe writes, yes, on The View, Whoopi publicly condemned the idea of the blacklist, and good for her. I don't agree with 99% of what Whoopi Goldberg says or stands for, but I do agree in this one thing, 100%, and good for you, Whoopi Goldberg, for calling her out on it. It is a terrible, terrible idea. And then to deny someone employment simply because of their political view. You don't want us to deny someone employment because of their race or gender or religious faith, so why would you deny them because of their political view? It may be a horrible political view, but they are entitled to that per the First Amendment of our Constitution. So, good for Whoopi and bad on Deborah Messing.
Yeah, I tell you, I cannot wait until we get a little closer to this election, like 2020, like January, when it really becomes interesting and they start having like debates and things like that, and primaries.
Absolutely.
Right now, it's kind of boring, you know.
Well, we're gonna have. I don't know if anyone knows when the debate is on CNN with these Democratic dummies. Post it up in the chat room. So I have no idea when it's going to be, and I'm definitely telling you, I'm not watching.
I'm thinking the 10th.
Is it just next week? Is it really?
I think so. I'm not sure, but I just want to see who made the cut, and that's it.
Well, I'm sure that they're all going to have their spin on it the next day, and we'll be hearing about it for another week until they start announcing the next CNN Democratic debate and the next cut of candidates that will be on the list. I've seen political seasons where it's been weird, but I've never seen a political season like we had since 2016. I have never seen anything as crazy as this. But again, if you're listening in,
and the hate out there,
the hate that's out there is unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable.
Cut it with a knife.
It is. And you got people being beat up in the street because they're wearing a "Make America Great Again" hat. You've got Antifa that is blocking a straight pride parade, ending up getting themselves busted. And good for the Boston cops and the Boston political hacks that allowed the parade to go forward and allowed the cops to do their job, not like you see in New York. And as a matter of fact, there's a new video up out there where there's another attack on the cops in New York City. This time they took a gallon jug of milk and threw it at a police officer's head. And you can't even say it's a racially motivated crime because a black guy threw the jug of milk at a black cop. Fortunately, the cop was not hit. He was able to duck. But I said this several shows ago. I said, it's water now. Next, they're going to graduate to something else. And this time it's a jug of milk. When will it be acid, bleach, something else that they'll throw at the cop that will cause a real injury? And what if they miss the cop and hit an innocent bystander? Right now, the cops have their hands tied. They've got a terrible mayor in de Blasio. They have an awful police commissioner that is not allowing their cops to do their jobs. And the only thing that's holding the cops together are the police unions. Patty Lynch, you're doing a fantastic job. Keep going, guy. We've got record number of suicides of active duty New York City police officers. And they're putting out special hotlines and other things out there trying to help save the cops' lives. It's gotten so bad that these men and women that volunteer to do this job are being attacked because they are out there to believe in protecting and serving the public for a greater good.
Well, it's gotten so dangerous that recruitment in law enforcement is way down. They are struggling to get people to sign up to become peace officers all across the nation. And I don't blame them. You know, you can do something, end up in jail yourself doing your job or making a split-second decision that somebody's going to second-guess you, you know, later on, you know, in the legal system. What they call it, the Monday morning quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah, stuff like that. So who wants to put up with that? You know, not only that, you get shot at. You could get killed.
You know, the disregard for law enforcement officers out there is at a record low. I thought it was low in the 80s when we had a record number of law enforcement deaths. But I think the last several years it is surpassed at an amazing rate. And yes, there are one or two out there that will do a bad job, and maybe you may have one or two small departments that are corrupt, but overall, 99% of the men and women in uniform are honest, believe in what they do, and are doing a very difficult job at a horrible time. You know, so my hopes and prayers is that we start to turn this nation around. Every day Americans out there get fed up enough where they say it's time to stop. Let's enforce our laws and let's support our law enforcement officers are out there doing a hard job. Let's give them what they need to do their job. And if you see a crime happening, report it. Don't turn your back on it. I'm trying to think. There's, is it San Francisco? I believe it might be San Francisco. Someone correct me if I am wrong. But there is one now, or is it the state of California, that is passing a law that says that if a police officer is in need of assistance, you don't have to help. There are some states that have laws that will protect the civilian. If you see a police officer in trouble, then in desperate need of assistance, and there's no other law enforcement around available to give them that hand, that you would be protected if you give that officer a hand. And in some places, it's mandatory that you do that. But they are now passing that law. I believe it's in California, that no, you're not required to assist. Matter of fact, you're encouraged to not assist. Yeah, it is the state of California. Thank you, Vita. I thought it was. Only on the left coast. Only on the left coast can they pass something so ridiculous. And they wonder why they no longer have a middle class. They wonder why businesses are fleeing California. They are wondering why. Well, thank you very much, Gavin Newsom. And Gavin Newsom is going to sign that bill. Thank you, Vito. I thought it was. But anyway, down to our last 8 minutes on the show, and I'm sorry that Kathy Landing wasn't able to join us. I will get a hold of her campaign and find out what's going on and get her rebooked on the show. We will be back here on Friday with Judge Janine Pirro and her new book, and it's a great book. I'm really, really enjoying it. She's fantastic writer. So we'll be talking to her about her new release. Also, it looks like she's in trouble with Fox News again. She ended up going on Sebastian Gorka's YouTube show, and Fox News isn't too happy with what she said. And she's probably saying, who cares? But she may get suspended.
Yeah, they always suspended somebody.
Oh, man.
What happened to freedom of speech in this country?
Again, you've got the left it's turning around, calling the advertisers, the sponsors on her show, and saying, we're not going to buy your product because you are sponsoring such and such show. They've been doing it to Tucker Carlson. They've been doing it to several other, shows on Fox News.
Sean Hannity, yeah.
Sean Hannity, Tucker Carlson, Judge Janine. So, yeah, they're trying to shut them down. And what better way to do that than to have their sponsors poll? I would in turn say, well, if that's going to happen, why don't we in Congress call up those sponsors and say, thank you for sponsoring her show, and we will support your product by purchasing it and advising people to purchase your product. Why not? Why aren't we doing the same thing but in reverse?
Well, they don't have no backbone.
Well, that's what we have to do. We have to grow a pair and stop letting the left win the argument. We've got to turn around and start winning the arguments back. And that's just about it. All I got for today, Curtis.
Well, hopefully this is the last of Dorian we'll hear about this weekend. I hear that there's 3 more systems out there, so I'm going to keep an eye on those, because this may not be over yet.
Yeah,
I remember a couple of years ago in Florida, we had like 4 back-to-back. Every week there was a different hurricane for 4 weeks straight. It got to the point where people who had boarded up their places just left it boarded up for a month. It's like, why bother taking it down?
Well, there is another one forming off the coast of Africa called Gabriel. I was watching that one last night, looking at the path. There's a couple of other depressions out in the Atlantic. I saw 1 or 2 out in the Pacific, 1 in the Gulf right now. So we do have a bunch of storms coming up. But, hey, it is storm season, June 1st to November 1st. So we got to know. We got to prepare. And if anyone wonders why there's so much damage, it's because we as men have decided to build our homes near these flood zone prone areas. We choose where we live. If you don't want to be in the path of a hurricane, don't live in Hurricane Alley. Period. End report. And one of the things my husband and I did when we bought a house was to make sure that we were not in a flood zone. It's responsible buying. If you choose to have your house on the beach, then something's going to happen.
That goes for Tornado Alley, too. Don't build a house there.
Exactly. Well, that's all we got for today. I want to thank everyone for joining us. We will be back here again, as I said, next Friday with Judge Janine Pirro.
Right.
So I'll be leaving you with our closing song, When the Roll is Called Up Yonder. So until then, I say good night.
All right.
And God bless.
And the roll is called up yonder.
90 seconds. 60 seconds.